So welcome everybody. Thanks to be here for the day 3 of Future of Gaming. I'm Yassine Kiri. I'll be the host of the day and for all our roundtables. So let's start with esports World Cup, opportunities and challenges. We have the pleasure to welcome Patrick Eringer. Welcome Patrick. You consult technology, media and telecommunications at CMS Germany. We also have the pleasure to have Vincent Pereira. Welcome Vincent.
Okay, thank you.
You are former head of esports of IOC. And we have also Sami Werfeli, Vice President of France Esports. Welcome Sami.
Morning, thank you.
So the first esports World Cup took place this summer in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia last summer, yeah? It was the first time that the tournament had brought together some 20 of most popular franchises in esports. League of Legends, Dota 2, Counter-Strike, Rainbow Six Siege. The best players and the best club in the world over 8 weeks of competition. So before we start, Sami, can you tell us who the Esports World Cup Foundation is, the Saudi entity that organized this competition?
So the Saudi Arabia basically has a strategy that is Saudi 2030. They have a lot of plans, including which there is esports. So they created this esports foundation to gather all these projects. And out of this foundation went the EWC. And there is a lot of things, but what they want is to create an ecosystem. Like they want to be the global hub for esports and gaming. EWC is just one step, and everything is basically included in EWC Foundation. So how it happened? Basically, since 2 years now, Savi Group has acquired through the PIF, so it's the investment fund of Saudi Arabia, several companies. As we are talking about esports today, it's ESL, it's Faceit, and it's stakes in VSPO. So these are the biggest esports company in the world, and now they created their own ecosystem, hence EFG Group, so that gather Faceit and ESL. So with these companies, they had the best people. It was capable in creating state-of-the-art event, and this is how they plan the Esports World Cup.
Vincent, in how extent this World Cup, as said Sami, reflects the strategy of Saudi Arabia in esports?
I think it's about creating the biggest event for esports and the biggest competition in the world. I think we had also like all the publishers doing their own competition schedule with their own World Cups, with the Worlds of League of Legends, for example, happening next week in London. But it's about how they can gather all the publishers together to create one big event that can be the World Cup with the clubs. Well, then you have like these questions about the World Cup with the clubs and without nations, which is like in the standard perception of the public. But I think it's really reflecting that, like how they can attract all the attention and how they can attract all the best players and how the best games in Saudi Arabia around one big event that will be the reference for esports competitions.
So Patrick, 2 months after this competition, what are the main lessons you've learned in terms of audience, business model and organization?
Well, I would say it's a little bit early to say, because like it was the first event. But I think in general, what you can say is like all the big teams were there, like all the important teams, over 200 esports teams. All the big games were played, 22 games, including Fortnite, League of Legends, and all the international sponsors were there. So like you had, not all these international sponsors, but a lot of them, like Pepsi, MasterCard, Amazon, and so on. So, and particularly Sony. So I think, it was like a success. They had 500 million viewers. So I think it was like an important boost for the industry at this moment of time, because we are in this situation that we have this so-called esports winter, where many teams are not doing well. And I think, this new approach or this new event will help the industry or the esports industry itself a lot.
Sami, the lessons that you learned about the first competition?
Well, it's not about the first competition, it's about...
The first edition, sorry. The first edition.
It's not about the first edition, it's about EWC as a whole. We also have to keep in mind that it's the first time a country has its own esports strategy. That's the first. So that's big and that's good as well, because now that they have the money to make it come to reality, they will be able to shape the product and to shape the vision as nobody did in the past. So the first lesson that we also see the evolution between Gamers 8 was the company, the event that was before EWC. So the gap is huge, and if this gap continues to be as huge, we'll have I mean the competition, which is. If we do an analogy with sports, there is the League of Diamonds with all the game, and this is what, in my opinion, will EWC will become. And what is good is that the publishers are now included in the strategy, the teams are included in the strategy, and they are basically creating the foundation of it. And in the long run, it will not be Saudi Arabia investing in this, but it will be all the ecosystem thinking as a whole. Is it the event we need to showcase what we can do to the world? And if it is, then everybody will be in Saudi Arabia working around their own business model. So I think on a pure business point of view, it's very interesting to follow what they will do next.
Vincent, can we say that it's already a success?
Depends of the angle you are looking at the event, but globally I think the perception was pretty good. From a team's perspective, from a player's perspective, the hospitality and the setup of the event was pretty good. In terms of audience and numbers, I think we still need to deep dive into the numbers, but maybe not enough for the Saudis, even in terms of media coverage and everything. I think they could have expected a bit more, even if I think for me the numbers were already good.
Can you tell what's numbers, what figures?
I think it's hard to say because you need to compile for, I think, all the games and all the market and territories. So, but globally, if you look at the global media perceptions and media like coverage, was a bit lower than expected, maybe. But globally, I think it was a pretty good event. Then there is one question that is key is about, as Sami said, like the publishers, the teams, the players were fully involved. But then I think you also need to question sometimes the model of it. And we know that there was a lot of money put behind also like to support the teams and the players to be ready to come and to do it. So then it's also the question about like, if you are not putting that money in, are the players and the teams coming? And I think it's essential for the first one to have this because to encourage them to come. But I think you will measure the success if in the next, maybe like in 3 editions, you will not have to do that at that level to bring them in. Because then it's just showing that, okay, it's the main event of the year.
And Patrick, you mentioned the esports winter. So how will this tournament accelerate the structuring of the esport industry, as for you?
As I said, I think it's a little bit early to say because it was the first edition of the event. But I mean, I think it depends on this new way of storytelling in esport works, because like before that, I mean, we always had events where you want to find out which team is the best team in League of Legends or which team is the best team in Counter-Strike. And now we have this kind of storytelling where you want to find out which team is the best team in esport, which team is the best, like has the most rosters and competes well in most games. So, and I think it will be interesting to follow whether this way of storytelling works in esports and if fans really want to follow that journey of their team. Also during the year, not just during the esports or during the event itself, but also like on the long term, and if publishers will support that. I think that really depends on it.
Sami, any comments?
I just want to add something, and also I remember someone told me how I felt after the competition. We're talking about the club competition here. What will be important is that, as Vincent just said, if it's sustainable for the team as well, because right now we have 21 games. To compete to this very specific competition, you need to have as many clubs as possible. That's point one. So it's a lot of money. That point two, they need to perform. It's not because you have the money that you will get the performance. So this is, again, very tough for the team right now. It's a very long run. Besides Falcon, I don't think there was any team who was able to have 21 disciplines. So I don't think will be a major change next year, but yes, it will force, I think, publishers to work directly with the teams as well to create their own ecosystem, because so far we know that the marketing of esports is mostly done by organization who are working with publishers, not always directly by the publishers who rely on the third parties, but this setup might actually work. So we'll see. It's very interesting. It's only 1 month in a year, but these teams need to prepare themselves through the year. So again, it will create storytelling. It will create new business model. So this is what we need to really be what we need to look at like a lot.
Vincent, speaking of the publishers, why have the major esports publishers such as Riot, Valve, Tencent, Ubisoft agreed to include their games in this first multi-esports competition?
Well, I think there is several reasons. I think it's not just one. It's about money, of course, and the licensing deals that they have signed with the Esports World Cup Foundation, which is one. The second one is about also like being part of one of the major events in the world, and the publicity that this will bring to the publishers and to the game, and the community that will be also super happy to see that games being part of the World Cup and the Esports World Cup. So I think these are the two main reasons from my perspective, but I've not discussed that with publishers, and you can ask to them later today. But yeah, I think for me, these are part of really the main reasons. And for some of them, like Tencent with Honor of Kings, for example, they're also there to develop their game. So they need also like to give them more and more awareness and more visibility on the stage to make sure that there is a competitive scene that now is really ready to shine. And this is also why I think for some of games that were rising was also essential to be there to really consolidate what they were doing.
Patrick?
Yeah, what I would add to this is that it also gives the publishers the opportunity to really reach a broader global stage or global audience, because normally like some games are very popular in some countries, like for instance PUBG is very popular in Asia, Call of Duty is very popular in the US, and if you have one competition where you play all these games, right, you can also reach this audience from other games and maybe attract the audience of other games for your own game. So I think this could be also like one reason why publishers agreed to join this project.
Sami?
So from my point of view, I will concur with what Vincent said, and I think at the very first point it's about money. I mean, I'm not in the secret of EWC, but what I've been told is that basically publisher got fees to add their game to the competition, which makes totally sense. For them, it's also a way to avoid painful work with several organizations. Just imagine you're a global publisher based in China. You need to run a full competition, and you need to talk to 46 vendors all around the world. And there is one guy who tell you, okay, we will consolidate everything, and we will use your meet powerful tournament, like for example Riot. I think what is going on in Saudi Arabia replaced the MSI, so it's not the World still happened, and Riot is still taking care of the Worlds. But this event in the middle of the year was probably very time consuming for Riot, and now there is someone who guarantee you that the event will be state of the art. They will take care of everything and they will give you money. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I'm a publisher, I will say all in. So again, the question will be how it will lean toward a strategy in the coming years.
You mentioned the clubs. So the total prize money to share was $60 million. So how this competition is an opportunity for the clubs to generate new source of revenues and accelerate their development, because now in the context of the recent years, they're struggling to monetize their audience. Vincent, maybe?
No, I think same as the publishers, the fees that the teams have also received to be part of the competition is one of the revenue source. I don't think for them the prize money is good, but if you know the structure of the prize money, when they are like winning a prize money, a lot of these prize money is going back to the players, which is normal. But the players, then it's more an interest for the players than for the teams. If you really look at it, like globally, I think teams are more looking. If we look at the the most structured teams like G2 or Team Liquid, now like they're more thinking about how they can really develop the revenue through other streams than just the prize money. The prize money is uncertain. It's about like, it's like competition, it's like sports. Like you cannot be sure that you can win money through that prize money. But what is interesting is being part of that kind of event is also still, I think, promoting your team, promoting some values, promoting some entertainment that your team can bring, and also like then generating also, again, more skin sales or in-game items that are like also generating a lot of revenues for the teams. So I think for me, it's not really about how this can really support direct revenues instead of really promoting, still continuing to promote the teams and giving them more opportunities to create content and to generate side revenues through other items. Even if you still have a fee that was given to the teams to secure their participation to the competition.
Patrick?
Yeah, I think prize money was definitely a reason to attend and to participate, because like of these $60 million, $20 million were like prize money for the teams and directly go to the team. So normally, like all the prize money or nearly all the prize money goes to the players or is distributed to the players. And that was different here because the money goes directly to the teams. And another thing is the club program, which was part of the EWC as well. So the foundation offered the possibility for, I think, 30 teams to get additional funding. And that consisted of 2 layers. The first layer was like a one-time payment to set up new rosters for teams which are played in the AWC. And the other layer was payments which we shall reward teams which did really well in the EWC, but also did a good job at marketing or promoting their participation in the EWC.
So everything has been said, and I completely concur with it. But what is also very good, I mean, for the whole ecosystem, is that if you go on the web and check the EWC strategy, and you will see that basically any kind of team can apply in the world. So there are conditions, and the 32 teams that you are currently seeing in the list of clubs are all the teams we know in esports, right? But in 2 years, everybody will use this as prerequisite, so they will work on it, and it will elevate the whole ecosystem. So if everybody plays the rules, meaning brands will support their own team, government could support national teams or jewel that they have in their own continent or country, it could be very beneficial for the whole ecosystem.
Sami, for people who doesn't know the matter as you know it, what is the business model, classic business model for e-club sport?
For
an e-club sport?
For club, esports club. Oh
esports
yeah,
club.
okay. So basically, at first it was basically sponsorship. To this sponsorship, was added, special operation. Let's say usually you go to a brand and you do something with your team. Lately, there was, like Vincent mentioned before, you have in-game currency that, depending on the tournament you're doing, you can get a lot of money from the publisher. It's a share of what he will put for the community. The community will buy the currency, and a share will go to the publisher, a share will go to the team. And lately, there was a business model that evolved because most of the country understood that it was all about eyeballs. So influencer tap into this business and created their own team, so that you have a mix of revenue that are from the influencers themselves or itself, depending on what the owner of the team want to do. They mix this with very good storytelling, and progressively some of the team will replace standard marketing campaign and do it as an agency. So this is, in a nutshell, what I would consider as a business model for the team right now.
So sponsorship, Vincent?
I think there is, depends on the clubs, but if we took the most structured clubs, you have like a combination of course, sponsorship was one of the, maybe doing like 30-40% at least of the revenues. Then you have like the in-games items that we're selling that can also like be a huge asset for some of the clubs. Now you can also see some players trading. Also, sometimes for some of the clubs, small. I think we can just name like 3-4 clubs that can really make money by trading players now. And then you have like all the side revenues as the merchandising and also has the special operation as Sami mentioned. But I think in general they are like part of the sponsoring deals that they're doing, selling few operations, but then trying also like when something is not planned in the schedule and the calendar, they're like trying to sell it as more. And the content, the content factory they have now and the channels they have, the community they have, they're also like monetizing a lot that kind of content that they are doing on their social channels, and exhibition games that they're doing, training games that they're like broadcasting online are also like monetized through the platforms. But yeah, globally now, like it's a global ecosystem, but it's also very fragile because we know that we have some of the teams that are super structured, but maybe 80% of the teams are not structured like that and are really like in an ecosystem that is not for now sustainable financially for them.
To complete that as well, there is also a new business model that is not among all the team right now, but as you can have in an airplane company, you have loyalty program. So, because you have to understand that some of the team, let's use a French example because we're in France, Carmine Corp right now has a huge fan base. So what they did, it's not very popular yet, well, based on what my knowledge, they created an app, very interesting app on which each fan can tap into, follow what the team is doing, interacting with the team, interacting in the next step will be interacting with sponsor of the team, and then interacting during each event as well, so probably even with organization themselves. So that's probably the next step of what would be the business model of the esports club.
And Patrick, in how extent this tournament could help this esports club to attract new type of advertiser, of sponsors, because we have the main brands, but maybe not all the kind of brands. So in how extent?
Well, I would say we have to keep in mind that esports in general is under competition, or part of this competition for content in general, right? We don't only have like gaming or esports, we also have like normal like video streaming, playing games itself, content on social media and so on. So I think this World Cup could also like help teams in this general content or competition of content. So if you have this possibility to tell a story of your team participating in such a big event and be the best team in esport in general, this will of course like help you to like increase visibility of your brand, and also like I would say to attract new sponsors, because esports itself could be more relevant. And this is what you actually want to do. Like you want to get more money into esports and more attention to esports in general. And I think all kind of ways to do that and to market that should be welcomed.
And in how we stand the storytelling of the competition, a World Cup, a kind of Champions League format, could help to help esports to be more mainstream to a general audience. Vincent or Sami?
No, I mean this because I want to bounce on what you just said about sponsorship and how it has to be moving forward. So there is something also that you need to understand. Esports is not sports. So right now, we can't always provide as accurate statistics as a football club can do or a World Cup can do after it happened. So this is something that all the clubs and all the brands need to be aware of. This is coming. We have companies like a German company called Shikenzo. They're doing an amazing job. They're capable in telling you whether a player was exposed to each and A, B, C media, how many times the logo was exposed, but also how many times the media talked about your brand directly or indirectly. This is how all the clubs will increase their own sponsorship, because the brands want to have something as accurate as in the sport right now, because it's not the numbers we gave from Twitch or from TikTok that will make huge sponsorship coming, and the teams will require it if they want to compete in competition like EWC, but others as well.
So my previous question about to be more mainstream, thanks to the storytelling of the format, is it help or?
I think what helps is if this event is giving more media coverage on mainstream media and offering the possibility for esports to be more broadcasted and more distributed through that, definitely could help. I think what Sami also mentioned about the new content creators and influencers that are taking in esports with new teams. In France, you can see it also with Gentlemates, with Squeezy, and all these guys that were more mainstream now and that are pushing the visibility and offering another visibility to esports. But I think what we have also done at the IOC and the creation of the Olympic Esports Games can try to also like offer more that kind of mainstream visibility and offering a kind of like a legitimacy that can like offer esports the possibility to really go more mainstream. But then there is a question about like, is it that is needed for esports or not? Is it like really to be mainstream or just to consolidate what they have and really make a sustainable environment? Because of course, for the next generation, it's important that their parents now are like aware about esports and esports in a good way, and not like in just like, oh, it's playing games on the couch and just like not doing anything. Just like explaining what gaming is and esports can be for the kids and how positive that can be. But from just a mainstream perspective, today we can see that the brands, the top brands like Coke, like Red Bull, like Mercedes, like MasterCard, they're already involved in esports. If you look at that, like you can already see that there is this opportunity that is there and that is already understood by the brands and the top brands. So the visibility can maybe just offer a bit like to higher like revenues, that kind of off. But if you are asking me if a huge fan of judo will then watch esports because of the esports World Cup, I would doubt of it.
What do you think about the dilemma, consolidate the fan base that they already have or be more mainstream? What do you think?
Well, I mean, we all hope, I think, that esports will get more and more mainstream. The question is always what you can do like to accelerate this and to make sure that it will really happen. And I think the EWC is like this story that you play 22 games and not just one game is, I think, a good story for the media, and that you can really find out which esport team is like the best in esport and not just in one game. Maybe we hope so, but yeah, well, it's difficult to predict.
Sami, about the dilemma?
No, I don't really have an opinion about it. I mean, what is obvious is that EWC is showcasing esports to the world, right? So let's see what happens moving forward. But right now, they're on a very good trend. I mean, for several reasons. Good, bad, neutral. I mean, it's in Saudi Arabia, so everybody is speaking about that. Let's face it as well. It's a foreign country. We all know that. So they will advertise way above what any traditional organization would do. And overall, the feedback from the first edition was very good. So I hope they will lean on that to continue their job. And pretty sure, knowing the people behind it, very huge fan of sports, they will probably take what's best in the sports ecosystem to make it as broad as possible. They know what they're doing.
So how long will it take for this tournament to establish itself as a major tournament in the discipline, Vincent?
Same, it's super hard to say. But I think it has already been established, to be honest. Like the first edition showcased that it's here to stay. The resources and the financial resources they have are big enough to really like at least establish it for the next coming edition. I think the key for the next one is also about how they can make it even more universal with qualification phases that will be more and more competitive, and maybe trying to bring also like teams from all over the world, and even like to develop some territories, like in Africa, for example. So I think for me it's one of the key things to really establish it as really, okay, this is one of the main event, or at least the main event in the world for esports. Is the esports World Cup will compete with the Worlds of League of Legends, for example, for the League of Legends stage? This is a question. Today I think it's a no, but it's no for now. But in the coming years, why not? But yeah, I think for them, what is good is like today we cannot put in doubt the financial, I think, strengths they have to really put it like for the next 3-4 editions, and really trying to grow the event through the years. So I think for me it's already there, and due to I think the fragile ecosystem within esports and some of the competitions that exist, they have the strengths to establish themselves as one of the biggest or the biggest event in the world for that.
Patrick, what are the challenges?
Well, I would say, like, in the esports industry itself, I would say it is just because of the pure scale and the pure size of the event, it is already established. But I think the challenge will be like, or the question will be, will it be like more covered in mainstream media? And I think this is a big challenge. And I think another challenge is, another question is, will it actually work, this idea of storytelling that fans are following their team, maybe during the whole year, also during qualifiers, and will they produce like content during the whole year? Will publishers support that? I think that's an interesting thing. But I also agree, like, I think the esports World Cup is here to stay because like it's part of this huge approach of the Saudis to invest in gaming itself, not just in esport. I think the investment in esports is a small fraction of the overall investment, which I think adds up to $40 billion, or shall at the end be $40 billion. So I think because they consider it also like as a future of entertainment. So I think the esports corporate will stay, and yeah, it will probably take some time, and it's just very early to say because it was a first edition, and the esports industry is a kind of, compared to traditional sports, a young industry.
Yeah, I agree with everything that has been said. I mean, it's an established event, no question asked. I will revert back on what we said at the very beginning. If the publisher and the team understand it and live it as a sustainable business model for them as well, it will continue and it will be a reference. Now, will it compete against the world of League of Legends? In my opinion, not at all. We have the Champions League, we have the World Cup. Both are amazing events. This is exactly the same thing. And the words will remain the words, and this will become more of a Champions League. And no question asked, people are craving for content. And your previous question was about time share of mind share. So it will depend on how attractive they will make the event.
And how to make this competition more mentioned to the media, because it was one of the challenges highlighted by Patrick. How could they manage to attract more media mainstream?
So for me, again, I will revert back on what Vincent was saying. In my opinion, they did a very good job at the first edition. The more there will be edition, the more media will be attracted by the competition itself. But the key is leaning toward new territories. If, for example, let's take his Vincent's example, if they lean in Africa, then they will obviously attract all the local media. Everybody will want to know who is the next hero in Africa. If they want to follow them and multiply that by the number of continent countries, you will have eyeballs everywhere. And this is what the World Cup is doing, this is what the Olympics are doing right now.
Because for now, what region of the world is more into this kind of competition? Asia?
So
Western Europe?
It's what we call the mature market in esports. It's China, it's Europe, and the US. I guess. I don't have the breakdown of the analytics, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was what this.
Vincent?
I think now we have is exactly that. Like, depends on the games, as you mentioned earlier. Like, for some of the games, the maturity level is really higher in Asia, in Europe, in US, South America a bit with Brazil. We have like good territories for that. But yeah, of course, Africa, Oceania, you have a bit in Australia, but it's not like really developed yet. And so I think it's also about the equipment level. In Africa, it's really also about equipment level, level of technology connections and everything that needs to be developed. And I think there is, I think for me, the mainstream media also will be attracted for the Esports World Cup if they try to go and develop projects that are, how can I say that, but like bigger than esports. It's not just about developing esports and a competition. It's about how they can develop projects that are like developing esports through projects that are like really bringing in more values and elements that are like out of esports. If they are doing this in Africa, it's about potentially developing a competition ecosystem, but also like developing an infrastructure there and developing I think programs like educational programs and everything. And if they can like make the Esports World Cup bigger than just a competition, but really developing it as a program and as a project that will bring more and more philanthropy around what they can do outside Saudi Arabia. I think this is where also like they can really create a narrative behind that can bring also the mainstream media and organizations to support and follow what is happening at the Esports World Cup.
Do you agree?
Yeah, totally. I think it's like all about creating that narrative, because like the interest in gaming itself is huge, like worldwide. It's increasing. There are more and more gamers. Many more, always like people are now growing up with video games, unlike, I don't know, 20 or 30 years ago. So I think, and it's all about like how much of that interest in gaming can be converted also to esports, because that's a different thing. Like, and yeah, I think there are many ways to do that, and many probably like marketing experts are exactly talking or thinking about this issue: how we can convert that general interest in games also to esports, how we can create a good narrative and a good storytelling to make people actually watch esport and enjoy it.
Final word, Sami?
No, I mean, these two answers was perfect. Actually, I would have said exactly the same thing. If they manage to set EWC as a goal for everybody in the world, they will create more than a competition.
Okay, guys, if gentlemen are agree, we can open the mic for the audience. If you want to ask question to our speaker, please raise your hand, introduce yourself. Don't be shy. Questions? Maybe? No? Yeah, the microphone is there. Is there any question for our speakers? No question, but Patrick, Vincent, Sami, thank you very much for the nice conversation. You can upload them.
Thank you.
Thank you.